Hey Astro Kids, and welcome back. And in today's video, we'll be talking about Saturn in the first house. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So just a quick disclaimer before we get into this video. First of all, this will be using Vedic astrology, which is using the sidereal zodiac. So if you're using the tropical zodiac in Western astrology, this will not give you the correct interpretation. When we get into this Saturn placement, we first have to understand what sign is Saturn placed in. So if Saturn is debilitated in Aries, if it is in a challenging sign like Scorpio, then this is going to make this position more intense. If it is exalted in Libra or at home in Capricorn or Aquarius, this can help you with this position. Also, I am using the whole sign system. So you want to make sure that each of your houses are ruled by a separate zodiac sign. This will give you the most accurate interpretation. So what is Saturn? Saturn is one of the most karmic planets in astrology. Saturn is here to teach us our lessons. And so Saturn is the planet that brings us hardships and obstacles. But it also gives us the ability to gain strength and resilience to achieve long-standing results. So Saturn is about reality. It is about being practical, patient, persistent. It is about resiliency. It is all about the concrete and tangible aspects of life. Saturn also is about being humble, about being ethical, about being responsible. So Saturn tends to give us a lot of lessons, challenges, and responsibilities that we have to deal with in order to resolve those karmic lessons coming from our past life experience. We also have to understand what is the first house. So the first house is one of the most important houses within your natal chart. It is one of the Kendra, one of the main houses. And the first house is formed by the ascendant, which was the sign that was rising on the eastern horizon at the moment of birth. The first house is all about your life path, your journey here in this lifetime. The first house also relates to your physical body and your health. So it is all about your vitality. It is all about the health issues and concerns related to your physical body. The first house also is about your decision making, about how you approach life, and about how you appear to others. So this is a very significant house that is related to who you are and your journey in this lifetime. So this is a very significant placement to have Saturn. Saturn in this first house is very uncomfortable because this is the original home of Aries, which is the sign where Saturn reaches debilitation. Also, this is opposite to Saturn's Digbala. So Saturn gains directional strength in the 7th house of partnership, but it has come into the first house of self. So once again, Saturn is about humbleness. It is about doing the duty that needs to be done. So Saturn is not interested in being selfish or being self-centered. So it feels very uncomfortable here as it is in a position where it is being seen, where Saturn is more about being behind the scenes. So this is going to give many challenges within your life if you have this position. Specifically, this will give a lot of difficulties within the earlier part of your life because Saturn tends to grow with time. And especially as you reach the age of 30 and 36, these are very significant times where Saturn will bring out the best in you. When you reach the age of 30, there is a Saturn return. So around that time, it will help to increase your confidence in that area where Saturn is placed. Saturn will also reach the age of maturity at 36. Another thing to consider is Saturn retrograde or is it placed in conjunction with another planet or being aspected by other planets? This will alter how this Saturn will play out for you. Along with this, if you are going through a Saturn Mahadasha, then this will strongly outline this position for you. So typically with the first house being all about your physical body, your health and constitution, Saturn can give you some difficulties around health from a very young age. There can be issues related to the bones because Saturn is all about the bones. And I've seen with this position poor posture, difficulties with walking or standing up straight, sometimes some physical disabilities and delays around the earlier part of life. This can also give issues with appearance as well, so difficulties related to the skin, to the hair. All of this can come up with Saturn in this first house. This can also give a leaner constitution as well. So this can put an individual on the thinner side and can make the individual more prone to becoming tired or exhausted. So this tends to pose a lot of health difficulties early on. And if this is not giving physical health concerns, it can give mental difficulties as well. Saturn is the planet of fear, of limitation, of restrictions, and this first house represents the brain. So there tends to be anxiety, fear, depression, issues early on that are blocking you from moving in the direction that you want to go in. Sometimes these fears and difficulties can be related to bullying or being taunted from a very young age as well. So there can be fear of judgment that is related to this position of Saturn in the first house. Saturn here in the first house tends to make you someone who is more serious, more pessimistic, more realistic in your approach to life. You don't have an overly optimistic viewpoint towards life. You're very serious. You're very much about reality and the way that things are. So you see things exactly as they are. You have very good judgment, especially if you have Saturn placed in a positive position. Exalted in Libra in the sign of Aquarius or Capricorn, this can give you excellent judgment and decision-making skills. Saturn gives you this realistic point of view due to the challenges and obstacles that you face from a very young age. So you are someone who learns through experience. Early on, especially if you have this in a challenging position, this can make the responsibilities that are placed onto you feel like a burden. So there is a lot of this feeling of depression, of restriction, of difficulty with pushing forward. And especially if you have Saturn placed in a challenging position, this can make you more introverted, more withdrawn. Due to these difficulties, you can pull back into yourself and move into this depression, this retreating from the world. And this can create a lot of difficulties for you, where this can slow you down in your progress. Typically, Saturn has difficulty, again, in its debilitation in Aries or in Scorpio because these are ruled by Mars. And Mars is about that forward push, that drive to move forward. Mars is a very impulsive planet that is all about action. But Saturn is very slow moving, very patient, very disciplined, very methodical in its approach. So Saturn is not going to allow you to rush or to push things forward. So this can lead to disappointments if you are in a rush to reach that success, that achievement. Also, Saturn tends to favor those who are, again, putting in the work, being humble, ethical, about serving others. So if you are more helpful, more about community, more about doing what is right, this will benefit you. So this tends to be stronger again in those signs of Libra, of Aquarius, of Capricorn, where it becomes more about humanity, about justice, about service, about partnership. This is a placement that really can put a lot of responsibility onto you. But again, if you have this placed well, you can take on these responsibilities without complaining, without getting bogged down by this. And this can help you to build momentum as you are moving forward. Typically, Saturn is going to give you success in the end because Saturn gives a 10th aspect onto the 10th house of career. So this placement is all about being patient, about being persistent, about not giving up. Because Saturn will give you those tangible results. This is just a very slow moving position. With Saturn in the first house, it can be very difficult opening up to people. You could be a person who is very quiet, very guarded, very serious once again. Saturn is going to give an aspect onto the third house and onto the seventh house. So its aspect onto the third house can create communication issues where you are unable to express your thoughts, unable to express your feelings. And again, this especially is true when Saturn is in a difficult or challenging position within the chart. However, Saturn's aspect onto this third house tends to give you excellent communication skills as you get older. You become very stern, very serious, very much able to convey your thoughts into words clearly for others. This is a position that can make you a leader later on in life as well. Sometimes this aspect onto the third house, once again with Saturn giving anxiety, giving some phobias, can create social anxiety. So there is a tendency to want to be alone. This is a position, again, especially when it is in a challenging position where you love your space to yourself. You love to be alone. And this can pose challenges around relationships. As Saturn aspects onto the seventh house, you are not someone who easily opens up to others. And so relationships tend to become very serious, very much about responsibility. And you can end up in a relationship with someone who is older in age or someone who has a very mature mindset. As Saturn aspects onto the seventh house, it also gives you a very long-lasting commitment. So this is excellent for the longevity of marriage, of relationship. But again, this makes this very serious, where you are all about the obligation, all about the responsibility. Saturn's aspect onto the seventh house also can create obstacles in partnership. So if you are working in business, this is a position that is better for self-employment. You can run into all sorts of obstacles and challenges within business partnerships. You can feel like you are the only one carrying the load within the partnership, where you're taking on most of the responsibility. As Saturn aspects onto the third house, it also can create delays or fears around travel. And along with that, it can create obstacles with your connection with your siblings. So there can be a loss of a sibling, or there can be conflicts in your relationship where you have different viewpoints. You could also have no sibling with this position as well. As Saturn aspects onto the 10th house, you are someone who is very serious and disciplined with your work. And again, this becomes especially true later in life, where you become an excellent leader, but you become a very disciplined and orderly type of leader. So you may be the boss that other people dislike. You are all about being on time, being ethical, doing what needs to be done. You're very disciplined in this area. Saturn in the first house can make you a very detailed person. You are able to pick out all of the facts and information. And again, are very disciplined, very persistent, very hardworking in your approach towards life. Especially as you get older, Saturn in the first house can give you tremendous amount of focus and concentration onto your work. So you become very successful in your career. There can be hiccups in your career though. Again, there's a tendency for Saturn to work very slowly. So Saturn in this first house can give you frustration around your career, or there can be a feeling of not receiving the progress that you are looking for. This is all about testing your patience and persistence. So with this position, if you are feeling that you are not getting those results, this is all about continuing to move forward. You will reap those results in the end. If Saturn is placed in a difficult position within the chart, especially though, there can be losses around your career. So you can end up losing a career path, which opens up to a new career path that is better suited for you. If Saturn is in a difficult position, it also can challenge your education as well. With Saturn in the first house, there's a tendency to be very slow in your ability to process information and to understand things. But at the same time, Saturn in this first house, due to this slowness, gives you, again, very good judgment, very good discernment. And so you tend to be able to give very good advice, especially if you have this placed well within your natal chart. This can give give you a very strong memory as well. But if you have Saturn placed in a difficult position, then you may end up losing your memory with time. Saturn in the first house can also sometimes make you very misunderstood by others, because this position makes you very authentic. There's a feeling of not caring what other people think. You are very honest, very authentic, very true to who you are. And again, this becomes especially true as you go up in age. And so for some, you can come off as brutally honest, as very much hardcore and disciplined in the way that you are expressing yourself towards others. With Saturn in this first house, you have a lot of stamina. And again, not necessarily physically, as there can be some physical challenges related to health, but this gives you a lot of mental stamina. You are able to continue working to keep going when others would give up. So with this position, this is excellent, again, for being persistent, for continuing on. This is a position where you tend to be very cautious, very much about routines. You dislike any kind of surprises. On the negative side, this can also make you very self-critical. You can judge yourself a lot, and in situations where you didn't necessarily do anything wrong. You can also project this onto others, and this is where, if you have this in a positive position, you get very good judgment. Sometimes you can feel like you don't get the support of other people around you, like you are constantly carrying the weight and responsibilities of yourself and others. This position tends to get better when you become self-reliant. Some careers that can be related to Saturn in the first house is a dentist, someone who is working in law as well. This can be an excellent position for a lawyer, for a judge. This can be an excellent position for any kind of mechanical or labor jobs. Again, very practical with Saturn here in this first house. You can also get involved in politics and social causes, helping others, social workers. You could be a police officer, detective, teacher. This is an excellent position for sharing your wisdom and getting involved in social causes. And some remedies for this position, as Saturn in the first house tends to give challenges whether you have this well placed or not, is always going to be around service. Service to the elderly, service to the sick, getting involved in social humanitarian causes. Saturn is all about service to humanity. This also is a remedy around being ethical, being truthful, doing what is right, being responsible. Again, instilling all of these Saturn values into your personality becomes an excellent remedy for this position. If you are becoming lazy, selfish, if you are getting demotivated, losing your energy and focus, this becomes very challenging. So this is all about being persistent and disciplined. Bringing in that patience and self-discipline will help you in your success. And you can get excellent success with this position. Saturn in the first house gives you the potential to achieve massive success, and you can get respect through your career and reputation, again, especially as you become older.